Bill Belichick has officially taken the job with the University of North Carolina, and today we're going to talk about what this means for not only the UNC football program, but also kind of college football as a whole. So Bill Belichick obviously signed a 5-year contract with UNC to be the head coach of the UNC football team. But more than that, he also brought in with him Michael Lombardi as the general manager. And more than that, we're going to get what is now referred to as the Bill Belichick effect kind of taking place. Right, Austin Blaske, the starting center of the UNC football program, had entered the transfer portal as soon as the Bill Belichick news came out. He went ahead and took his name out of that portal, and he's saying, I want to stick around for Coach Belichick. I want to stick around because I have a realistic shot to make the NFL if, Bill Belichick can kind of come in here, get me right in terms of the coaching, and we'll be able to have success, right? And it's the Bill Belichick effect, and we're going to see other guys kind of do this as well. In fact, we had one of the best quarterbacks coming out in the upcoming class in Jared Curtis went out and kind of put this out there. He said, Bill Belichick is arguably the greatest coach of all time. And he said, I definitely want to get up there and meet him. Ultimately, Jared Curtis, who might not have had UNC on his actual radar, he may not have had said that I'm going to actually go to UNC, given that he's one of the best quarterbacks coming out in 2026. He is now saying that I will actually go up there and I will actually meet with Bill Belichick to potentially lead that program, right? And this is the Bill Belichick effect. It's not just Jared Curtis. It's not going to be just Austin Blaske. Bill Belichick just got hired. You give it 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to see all these people saying, I want to go to UNC. I want to get out there and I want to play for Coach Bill Belichick because I want to make it into the NFL. Bill Belichick's going to get me right. And Bill Belichick went on the Pat McAfee show where he ultimately put it out there that we're going to build a winning culture. We're going to play good fundamental football. And we're going to make sure we develop players and get them ready into the NFL. We're essentially going to create a factory from high school to college to the NFL. That's what we're trying to build with the UNC football program. And I think they're going to be able to do it because Bill Belichick, and let's back up. I think they're going to be able to do it because Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches we've ever seen at the NFL level. And the thing is what makes Bill Belichick great, I think sometimes gets overlooked a little bit. People are going to say, hey, he had Tom Brady and had all this success because of Tom Brady. But the thing is, it goes hand in hand, right? Tom Brady wouldn't have won as much without Bill Belichick. Vice versa, Bill would not have won as much without Tom Brady. But the thing people overlook is the fact that Bill Belichick runs an elite scheme on the defense side of the football. And it's not just an elite scheme that he runs. It's the elite scheme in the defensive back unit specifically. Right? If you guys follow Bill Belichick, if you guys follow some of the guys that he's worked with, some of the guys who's worked in the secondary with Bill Belichick. You got guys like Nick Saban, who won multiple championships and ran a really, really solid program himself at Alabama. You got Brian Flores, who's currently dominating the NFL with the Minnesota Vikings as their defensive coordinator. Patrick Graham with the Las Vegas Raiders, their current defensive coordinator. These guys are all former Bill Belichick assistants. They specifically focused on the secondary. And these guys are kind of dominating in the NFL. And Patrick Graham's not having as much success this year. I think a part of that is the injuries on the defense side of football. But we've seen coaches coach with Bill Belichick in the secondary specifically and go on to have a lot of success. And I think that's important to realize because I think there's nothing more that leads to winning than having a great secondary. I think it's, from a scheme perspective, the most important concept. Nick Saban went on to have a lot of success. I think Bill Belichick's going to kind of follow that same path because Bill Belichick's going to come to UNC and he's going to help mold some of the best corners that are going to go from high school to college to the NFL, right? We saw Bill Belichick kind of revolutionize the match coverage concepts, right? A lot of people did not utilize that back in the 1980s, 1990s, mid-1990s. Bill Belichick, Nick Saban kind of created this concept. And for years, this dominated the NFL. In fact, the best coaches right now run match concepts a lot heavier than coaches that don't, right? And with that, Bill Belichick's going to bring all that to UNC, and we're going to get the Bill Belichick effect fully underway, where players are going to say, I want to go play for this guy. And I think Bill Belichick's going to end up having a lot of success. Another thing to realize, right, is because college football has changed so much, college football is basically a business at this point, right? You recruit high school players. It's basically the NFL draft. You go through the transfer portal, which is basically the NFL free agency. And then you develop guys, right? You get 4 to 5 years with every single one of these guys that are coming in, at least from the recruit aspect of things. And then they're going to essentially go into the NFL. And as time goes on, the more success you have from, honestly, the more success you have with the guys that are making it to the NFL, even more so than the national championships, in my opinion. You're going to be able to bring in better and better and better players. And, we're at the point where UNC, for the 2025 recruiting class, they rank like 75th or something, right? It was kind of low. That's not going to happen next year, right? Next year, UNC will be ranked probably in the top 15, top 20, and it's only going to go higher and higher and higher. And obviously, that's kind of the business side of college football. But that's also the Bill Belichick effect, right? Let's not overlook that Bill Belichick kind of has that. Coach Prime also put out a statement talking a little bit about Bill Belichick. He said, Coach Bill Belichick is a coach's coach to all of us coaches, along with my man, Coach Saban. They're game changers, and they know how to move people forward. I know this is a great thing for college football and for North Carolina. God bless you, Coach. If you're happy, I am too. I absolutely love that Coach Prime is putting this statement out, right? Because Coach Prime, I think, is also one of the most respected coaches out there. And he's kind of revamped that Colorado program as well. Now, obviously, he is going to have that one issue, right, Coach Prime, specifically that Shedeur Sanders is leaving, right? So they'll have to kind of make it work. Now, they got a pretty big recruit coming in. But it's going to be interesting as we kind of go forward, right? Because Colorado's shown us that you can kind of bring in Coach Prime and these type of people and have success. Bill Belichick's kind of that same figure as Coach Prime. I think the one big difference is Bill Belichick's actually a really, really good coach, right? He's a great play caller. He's a great designer. He's a great, from a scheme perspective, he does all the right things. I'm not saying Coach Prime doesn't do all those things, but Bill Belichick has proven it at the highest level. So it's going to be interesting as we kind of go forward. Now, I want to just touch on some of what UNC has to do as we go forward. First and foremost, I think getting a quarterback for the long term will be very, very, very pivotal for this team. They finished 6-6 this past season. And I think a big part of that was just because there was a little bit of inconsistencies. The offensive line was good at certain times, but there were still some inconsistencies. I think they had a good run game. Obviously, they have arguably the best running back in the country in Omarion Hampton. Hampton, as he comes out at the NFL draft this year, he's going to be a first-round pick, right? I'm pretty confident in saying that. I'm a foolable scout, so I'm fully fine tuning into these guys. He's going to be a first-round pick, right? We'll have 3 running backs, I think, this year that go in the first round. Hampton will be one of them, Ashton Jeanty, and then, of course, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. I think UNC has to fix that quarterback position and really get it right long-term, right? You'll have Criswell, you'll have Harrell. Are these guys the future? That's going to be an interesting thing that we're going to kind of find out. I'm going to say they're not, right? I'm going to say that maybe for a year you might roll forward with one of these two guys. Maybe you develop Connor Harrell. He's still younger. But Bill Belichick, don't get it wrong, he's going to bring in his own quarterback. It's just a matter of time until it happens. But there's other things you got to get right as well, right? You got to figure out, can you keep some of these other players, right? Chris Colliver, I would make the argument Chris Colliver is one of the best. I don't want to overhype him. He is one of the most explosive players that I think UNC has, and they obviously have Hampton as well. But I would make the argument Chris Colliver, the wide receiver, is super explosive. Now, he obviously didn't get a ton of touches this season, but when he did get those touches in the final, I think like 2 to 3 games, he had a 95-yard kickoff return. He had, I think, like 2 or 3 catches for like almost 100 yards and a touchdown, right? I think one of them was a really, really big touchdown. But Chris Colliver has been solid for UNC over the last 2 weeks. So he's shown a little bit of potential. I think you got to keep Davion Gauze around, right? I think he's going to be a really, 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 really good running back. I know he's kind of been a backup, and he has to sit behind a guy like Hampton. But with Hampton going to the NFL, I think Davion also probably wants to make it into the NFL, and I think he has a real shot to make it. Obviously, he got limited carries this year, or limited touches, I should say, this year. But I think Hampton averaged 5.9 yards per attempt, and Davion was, I think, got like 5.1 or 5.2. So not a huge difference in the yards per attempt, considering one guy's a freshman, right? But you got to keep this guy around is all I'm trying to get to. Mari Campbell's another guy that kind of flashed a little bit for UNC this year. I think he's another guy you want to keep around. Some people think that he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be gone this year, right? He's going to hit the portal. He's going to end up leaving, but truth be told, man, if you're Campbell, who has real NFL upside, right? Campbell 100% could potentially make it into the NFL. You want to play for a guy like Bill Belichick. So I'd be surprised if any of these 3 guys left. Keeping in mind, you're going to lose some of these guys like K'Mon Rucker's going to end up leaving, right? You're not going to be able to bring him back. Huzzy was pretty solid as well. I think he played a lot of slot corner this year. He was pretty solid as well this year. I'd argue those were two of the better defensive players for UNC this year, as well as Campbell. Campbell was really solid this year as well. UNC has to retain some of these guys, and some of these other guys are kind of leaving. At the same time, they got to revamp that offensive line, right? You got to bring in guys that can long-term, right, be solid football players. But even more than that, you got some young guys on the offensive line. Do you want to roll forward this season with some of these guys? Do you want to potentially bring in some guys that are willing to transfer, right? So UNC has to hit that portal. They got to hit it hard. Bill Belichick has his work cut out. Really is not going to get any sort of break as we go into these next couple of weeks. The portal's active. He has to get into it. He has to start bringing in some of these guys. We'll see what ends up happening, man. I'm excited. We'll be covering UNC on this channel. If this is the first time you guys are here, we do draft content. We also cover some of the various big programs. We'll do some matchup reviews, those type of things. We'll do film breakdowns. I'm a Hula Bowl scout, so I have a lot of inside information in some of these players from the draft perspective specifically, right? And I'm a huge football fan, man. So subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I will see you guys next time with another video.